Everybody, I'm Dr. John Douillard, and welcome to LifeSpa.com. And today I want to talk about an article that I wrote recently at LifeSpa.com called The Science of Sattva. And Sattva is an Ayurvedic expression for a state of mind that has to do with, being comfortable in your own skin without needing a reward, approval, appreciation from the outside world to be content. It's a very basic foundational principle in Ayurveda to kind of gear yourself to being more sattvic in your life, more giving, more loving, more kind, more altruistic. And one of the things about being more giving and loving and kind is that the science is just overwhelming in terms of the benefit for us. It's when you look at the science of, and so much is done on stress and how stress breaks the body down, little science has been done on how much love and giving and kind does to benefit the body, although there is some, and I want to share some of that science with you today. And in the article, so you have the video, you can check that out at LifeSpa.com and read the science and get the links and read the whole studies about that. But there was one study that was done in the Journal of Sciences, and it was done it was a Harvard study. And they actually said, well, what if we gave money to people? Would they be happier if they spent the money on themselves and buy what they really loved, or if they spent it on somebody else? And across the board, they were happier when they gave and they spent the money on somebody else. A very sattvic kind of behavior. They did another study, a backup study, a follow-up study, and they found that they measured people in 136 different countries around the world, and they took poor countries and rich countries, and they found even the poorest of the poorest people who had nothing, when they had money and they spent it on somebody else, they were happier than when they spent it on themselves. This sort of touches about a raw kind of human instinct thing. We care for others, we care for the tribe, it makes us all better, right? Which is pretty amazing. Studies show that when you help others and give and care for others, you live longer compared to when you don't. Studies show. Another study published in the American Journal of Public Health, they had 846 volunteers who they evaluated, and they found that people who gave tangible help to somebody within the last year, and they measured them over a 10-year period of time, they actually found that they actually lived significantly longer than those who did not. So they now know, the science is in, that when you help and give and care for others, you'll live longer than when you don't. Also, when you give to people, there's a very subtle aspect of the Ayurvedic understanding of sattva, which means that when you give to people with a hope to get something in return, you have a bit of a hook, right? You give them a gift, but you want a reward, you want praise, you want appreciation, approval, whatever. It actually has been shown to have a negative impact on the genetic code, because somehow at a subtle level, the person you're giving it to can actually tell that you're not really giving it to them sincerely. But when you give it in a eudaimonic way, which means giving it in a way where you don't have any expectation to get anything in return, you just love the giving, it actually has a positive effect on the genetic code, which is just really amazing. So it's, it sort of scrubs us to be more true and honest with ourselves. If we're trying to manipulate the environment to like us, give a gift so we get a reward, do X, Y, Z so people approve of us, it backfires at the most subtle level of our being, which is measured by our genetic, by the genetic impact, which is, I think, pretty interesting. A journal in the British Medical Journal of over 4,700 people, again, followed for 10 years, found that people that if one person is happy, it spreads, they call it 3 degrees, to them, to their friends, and to their friends. So happiness is an infectious, contagious thing. For example, in the study, they said if you live a mile away from somebody who got happy, a friend of yours who got happy, that increases your risk of getting happy spontaneously by 25%, according to the study, published in a prestigious British medical journal, which is sort of really interesting. When you go shopping, studies show that when people go shopping, they have a positive, giving, loving, caring attitude, a sattvic attitude. They actually eat healthier, buy healthier food, and have a healthier diet. And they measured grocery stores in the rich areas and in the poor areas. So even in the poorest areas, people buy the cheapest food, they still were eating a healthier diet when they had a positive attitude. Another study showed that when people were worried and stressed out and anxious, if they replaced those thoughts with visual images of happiness or mental repetition of happiness, completely changes it. Those mental repetitions of happiness are sattvic experiences. Sattva has to do with beauty, looking at beautiful things, looking at happy things, being kind. I know it's sort of like a little bit maybe, rosy colored glasses kind of a thing, but we need more of that in our lives, and we can gain a lot of the scientific benefits of that by engaging in behaviors of helping and caring for others, which is so critically important. In a study published in the Journal of Psychological Science, they found that memory, unfortunately, tends to decline with age. But they found that people who were significantly more positive in giving and caring to others, they had significantly less memory decline with age, right? So also they know that sattva, loving, giving, caring for others, builds something called oxytocin, which is the longevity hormone. It's the bonding, loving, giving hormone. And you make more of that when you give and care for others than when you take care of yourself. You make more of that when you are in a kind of eudaimonic giving behavioral mode than when you're looking for the dopamine, the reward chemistry. Dopamine, the reward chemistry that we all are somewhat addicted to, you keep needing a bigger, stronger stimulant to get it. You need a bigger car, more money, more power, a bigger job. All these things need to come from the outside world to make you happy, but you need to keep stimulating with stronger, stimulants to get the same dopamine reward chemical response. Where the oxytocin, you get to oxytocin, which is a longevity, bonding, loving, giving, caring hormone. And the more that you give, the more oxytocin you get. You can't exhaust yourself of producing oxytocin, which is really cool. And then finally, studies on meditation. Meditation, a very, pulling back the bow, becoming still inside, kind of entraining your internal space with nature's rhythms, which are very still. Go into the forest, you find that silence. That's medicinal in itself, a very sattvic experience. But also at the same time, when you pull back the bow in your own meditation, sort of like a biohack for our longing to be in nature, which is where we came from. But meditation gives us a glimpse of that, and even that, it changes the microbiome. It lengthens the telomeres, which are the measures of the chromosome caps on your DNA that are linked to longevity. Nobel Prize winning science by Elizabeth Blackburn found that when you are stressed out, the telomeres shorten, and when you love, give, kind, and give and care and meditate, those kind of things, the telomeres lengthen. And in one study with meditation, they found that people who meditate increase the length of their telomeres by 30% in one study and 46% in another, which is pretty amazing, the benefits that are there. So the bottom line is, is that we have this thing called sattva, which is the behavior that really makes us thrive. Stress and driving yourself into exhaustion to get reward, you may have temporary, reward and feel great, but in the long run, we end up getting exhausted, run down, and broken down. Where sattva is what Ayurveda talked about is the road to longevity. And that's what Ayurveda is really about, is strategies that are hooked up with rhythms of nature to get us to live in sync with the natural harmony of nature, which is very peaceful and sattvic in itself, and we can mimic that. When we mimic that, we thrive. So there you have it. It's a great article, I think. I love the idea of the science of sattva because it's in. Please read it at LifeSpa.com. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Douillard.